Okay, great. Now that we know how to select cells, let's talk about the things we can do with those selected cells and ranges. Almost everything you can do using the ribbon in Excel can be accomplished using VBA. There are some handy methods and properties that will be used frequently, but this is by no means a comprehensive list of ways to manipulate Excel. If you want to learn how to quickly create and adjust code, I recommend using the macro recorder button found on that developer tab, as discussed in the introduction video. I will briefly discuss my most utilized Excel features, which include changing cell values, copy and paste options, and a brief coverage of Excel formatting in VBA. Manual updates. The simplest way to adjust a cell using VBA is to input the value directly into that cell. We do this by defining the range, as discussed in the previous video, and equating it to a value. We can enter text, like the name of a project, or number values. A specific note, text values need to be entered inside quotation marks. VBA will read text values without quotation marks as variables, so be cautious of marking these lines appropriately. Number values can be entered either using or ignoring quotation marks. You can also enter the same value for every cell in a selected range. While this is the easiest version of changing cell values, it is far from the most efficient. First, you need to know all the cell values you want to manipulate and write each value out individually. More importantly, it's fairly limited in scope. A more powerful version of adjusting cell values is using variables rather than individual pre-written lines. In this instance, we will use the named range, player named range, to adjust cell B35. When we run this script, cell B35 updates to reflect the value of the named range. This becomes more valuable than it appears, especially when using loops in future videos, so just take a mental note of this method. Copy and paste options. Just like Excel, copy and paste quickly becomes one of the most utilized tools in a script writer's tool belt. It's an incredibly fast and reliable way to move and create data in workbooks. In the last video, we exclusively used the select method denoted by .select after ranges. We can use copy and paste in the same way. We can select cells and ranges and can copy and paste these values using the .copy and .paste special methods. Copy is incredibly straightforward. This method is equivalent to hitting Ctrl-C or right-clicking and selecting copy. Nothing more here needs to be said. But paste special needs a little bit more explanation. Using the paste special method is equivalent to opening the paste special window. If you're unfamiliar with this Excel option, pause the video and explore how to navigate to and utilize the window, as there are several time-saving options available to you. After entering .paste special, you will be given several options that should be self-explanatory. These options are my most common uses are Excel paste formulas and Excel paste values, occasionally adding the and number formats to each. Be careful when pasting data, as you can overwrite other data in your workbook or easily paste unintentionally large ranges. Examples of Excel formatting in VBA. Okay, so this is just a small sample of everything that you can manipulate in Excel using VBA. I would recommend using the VBA macro recorder for creating specific code that you can then manipulate to use in your code. I'll briefly touch on all these methods and properties, but you can find a complete list in the VBA editor of the file found in the description of this video, so don't take too many notes. You can toggle between bold and italic fonts using .font, .bold, and .font, .italic, setting them equal to either true or false. You can select specific fonts using their name with the .font, .name equals method. I've selected Arial and Calibri. You need to know these names specifically as they're written out in your version of Excel. You can also use variables for font names if needed. Toggling underlining of text is used with the .font, .underline, and selecting from the following options. So you have single, double, double accounting, single accounting, and none. Font size can be adjusted using .font.size with the value you want. You can choose font color using the color index, and that's with .font.color index, and a number from 1 to 56. These numbers correspond to the following colors shown on the screen. You can also select the RGB scale if you want a more specific color, and this is achieved using .font.color equals RGB and then the 3 numbers that you need. Borders. Borders can be adjusted using borders.linestyle and selecting from the following: continuous, dash, dash dot, dash dot dot, dot, double, slant dash dot, line style none. You can also change the thickness of the borderline using the .borders.weight plus one of the following: hairline, thin, medium, or thick. Quick note, not all lines have those thicknesses. For instance, there is no thick dash dot line available. When this happens, the line will revert to its default settings. You can adjust alignment using the horizontal alignment and vertical alignment, and choosing from 3 options from each. So for horizontal alignment, you have left, center, and right. And vertical alignment, you have top, center, and bottom. Text wrap is toggled using .text wrap and setting it equal to true or false. You can adjust the angle of text using .orientation with the choice of negative 180 to 180, where 0 is perfectly horizontal. You can also select how much of an indent is needed using the .indent level, where 0 represents no indent, 1 is a single indent, 2 is a double indent, and so forth. Number format can be adjusted using number format. One additional note: if you want to make multiple changes to a single property, you can group those changes together using a with statement. We'll use font for our example. This will save you time writing redundant header properties and makes the code easier to read. Essentially, every line will refer back to the property defined by the with statement, so you don't have to write .font before each change you want to make. Also, take some time with the macro recorder and just mash buttons on the ribbon. Not everything will come through perfectly, but you'll learn a lot of interesting things that can be adjusted using VBA.